Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're digging into a pretty bold argument, the idea that a quiet geopolitical move that just happened isn't just another news headline. It could be a signal that marks the end of an entire era for American financial power.
So the idea here is that Saudi Arabia, a critical U.S. ally for almost 80 years now, has just made a decision that goes way beyond typical foreign policy. The analysis we're exploring today argues this is maybe the most consequential geopolitical refusal in modern history, and it strikes right at the heart of the petrodollar system.
And this isn't just some diplomatic posturing or a negotiation tactic. The argument we're looking at says this is the trigger. It's the activation of a historical pattern that has, apparently, brought down every single global superpower. No exceptions, no mercy, and no coming back.
All right, so to really get this, we first need to understand the framework that this whole argument is built on. And it all kicks off with this idea of a hegemon. This concept is absolutely central to the whole analysis. See, it's not just about having the biggest army or the most weapons. It's about building a whole financial system where, well, everyone else has to play by your rules if they want to get ahead.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. The claim is that this four-stage pattern isn't just some academic theory. Nope, it's described as a brutal, almost mathematical cycle that just repeats throughout history. Let's take a look at how they apply it to empires of the past.
So, to prove this isn't just a fluke, the analysis points to three huge historical collapses, arguing it's the same pattern playing out over and over again.
First up, the British Empire. You know, the American colonies started out as this dependent client state, right? But they got so wealthy that eventually Britain actually became dependent on them. The Boston Tea Party, that was them testing the boundaries, stage 3. And the Declaration of Independence, well, that was the big one, the critical stage 4 refusal. The war that followed basically bankrupted the empire. The whole system ended up costing Britain more than it was worth.
Then you've got the Sino-Soviet split. Here, the analysis frames China as the client state that just got too big and powerful inside the Soviet system. When Moscow demanded total loyalty, total ideological alignment, Beijing just said no. That one refusal fractured the entire communist bloc, and, according to this source, it was the beginning of the end for Soviet dominance.
And this right here, this is a perfect illustration of the pressure building on the system after World War II. As America's European allies, the client states, got back on their feet, they started cashing in their US dollars for gold. And just look at what happened to America's gold reserves. They absolutely tanked.
So, this brings us to what the source calls America's own Stage 4 moment. When its allies came calling for their gold, President Nixon had a choice. Either empty out Fort Knox or just break the promise. He chose to refuse, to close that gold window. And that single decision directly led to the birth of the petrodollar system, the next tool to keep the US on top.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today and see how all this history ties into the central claim about the US and Saudi Arabia right now. And here's where the pattern gets applied directly to our time. Stage 1, that was the petrodollar system being set up back in the 70s. But now we're in Stage 2. Saudi Arabia is a financial giant with its own powerful partners. And Stage 3, that boundary testing, that was last year when they ignored US pleas to pump more oil. And now, the big one, Stage 4. The analysis we're exploring says that by normalizing relations with Iran, defying 45 years of bedrock US policy, Saudi Arabia has made the critical, game-changing refusal.
And according to this analysis, this isn't some emotional decision by the Saudis, it's cold hard math. I mean, just look at this chart. It lays out the economic reality loud and clear. China is now their biggest trading partner, and it's not even close. That gives them leverage and options they just never had before.
So, what does this all mean? What happens now? That's the billion-dollar question, right? If this pattern really holds, we're not just looking at a few consequences. We could be looking at a complete reshuffling of global power.
Now, the source says, don't get bogged down in the daily headlines and the diplomatic drama. Instead, it points to a few very specific things to watch for, real markers that would show the system is actually breaking down.
Yeah, these are the tripwires. Things like Saudi Arabia officially pricing its oil in Chinese yuan, or OPEC making big decisions without even consulting the US anymore, or maybe a new security pact in the Gulf that doesn't involve the US military at all. And the big one, a US Treasury auction that actually fails because not enough foreign buyers show up. The argument is, if you see these things happen, that's the proof that the global demand for the dollar is drying up in real time.
So for you, for us, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, it's basically a warning. The analysis suggests that as this petrodollar system starts to unravel, assets that are priced only in dollars, think treasury bonds, are carrying a new, really serious kind of risk. The argument is that hard assets, things like gold, real estate, even Bitcoin, things that hold value no matter what a currency is doing, they become crucial for protection.
And the whole thing ends on this really provocative note. This time is not different. This time is exactly the same. The idea is that for all our modern tech, for all our military might, these mathematical patterns of history are just absolute. The argument is that we're watching an empire decline not because of one bad decision, but because this cycle of debt, overreach, and a client state's ultimate refusal is just playing out all over again. And the only question it leaves you with is, what do you do now that you know?